we are coming back to a process-centric thinking. So we have here the sales and operation planning process, and you could say this is an overarching process of typically of top-level management for a supply chain. So what is this process all about? So here we have the process picture of ASCM, so the Association for Supply Chain Management. And here you can see the 5 steps, which are monthly repeating. And step 1, data gathering. And here, of course, we see it already. Data. It's about actual sales, forecasts, backlog, so the inventory and everything. And then you go into a first part, into the demand planning. We had this demand planning part. Then you go into high-level supply planning grid. So it's a second round. And it's really together with the managers, not only the systems, going through each of these steps. And there's a pre-execution SNOP meeting. So what do we have to resolve? And then the final executive meeting on SNOP. So where big decisions take place, because typically an entire supply chain is very often under firefighting mode towards a customer where delivery did not work and so on. So this is really top-level executive work often to go to the supplier or towards the customer. And these steps really repeat in a monthly cycle, should repeat in a monthly cycle. Here's the definition of the sales operation planning, also from the dictionary. And if you look on this complicated process, how can you best support the entire decision making? We have seen the individual sub-steps therein, where you can really perform data analytics, forecast, and data gathering. But if you look in the background, what you really have to provide is a kind of full transparency of everything you're doing in your supply chain. And now you're entering the cockpits, or a concept which is quite old. So again, here in 2013 from Procter & Gamble, a presentation, they called it decision cockpits. So really presenting all numbers on one page for the top level management during this kind of discussions, and maybe with a hierarchical drill down. SAP, so the German ERP company, it calls it a digital boardroom. So typically you have a boardroom where you can access nearly every information by clicking through it. McKinsey calls it control tower. So a control tower is a cross-functional real-time data matrix across the entire dimensions from transport towards the customers. So every company wants to push their own names. In the background, the idea is quite logical. You want to have every information in a one mouse click. So that's a basic fundamental idea behind. You don't want to have hundreds of dashboards, which is very often in companies. You really want to have one single entry point, and the data sets should be connected seamlessly. And we had this topic already in the supply chain risk analysis, where you really also want to have which risks are really connected to which parts of your supply chain. And if you look again on the background, everything you have to do from an analytics perspective, you need the enabler that the data assets are really connected in the background. And we are back to our data model, which we introduced already. Without this data model, you will end up in isolated topics, and you really have problems to trace down individual topics. For example, a supply issue towards your customer can have so many root causes. It might be in the manufacturing side, it might be in the replenishment side, it might be in the warehouse, and you really need to understand where is the problem and how to solve it. We had this topic also in the digital twin from the larger topic. Also there, you need this data model as a foundation. No data, no transparency. That's the reason why I place this topic again here on this very important process of a SNOP. You have to work step by step to connect all data assets of your supply chain. And this is you could say, the background philosophy of supply chain analytics, that you connect your assets while you serve the cases on top. And if you have then a concept on top, like the boardroom concept, you have a wonderful philosophy towards your top level management. How does it work? And you have to support their decision steps by data-driven information.